What's up, gamers? I'm your host, Cobra, and on today's episode of the Freeroll, we're breaking down Marcolian Decks. Now that you've chosen your Paragon for Marcolian, let's take a look at some of the really key cards. And Marcolian is a bit less dependent on combos than other decks, but everything still goes together very nicely. Artillery Volley, for just 3 energy, you get to destroy a friendly unit, which is an additional cost to playing this card, but in return you deal damage equal to that unit's attack to all enemy units. So it's really not that big a deal for you to sacrifice one unit that does, say, 2 or 3 damage to all of the enemy units, and when you're facing against another Marcolian deck or a Cathari deck or really any deck that's trying to go fast, that's going to take out all, if not all, most of their units in a single swoop. So this effectively is like a board wipe that only costs 3 energy. Next is Crackshot, and the theme here is definitely direct damage, because Marcolian is the only peril that can effectively do direct damage to both enemy units and the enemy player. Crackshot is 2 energy to do 3 damage to the enemy. Moving on, let's take a look at some of the key units for Marcolian. And one of the things that I really like about Marcolian is that there's really not any bad units. These are all good and strong and useful units to have in your deck. One of the most important common cards in the game is the Heavy Weapons Team. This is a 1 energy unit. It is a 1/4 unit, and it cannot attack. So it's effectively a unit with Pacifist because it can't attack, although it doesn't have the Pacifist keyword, so it's not going to interact with Earthen cards in the same way. Instead, it deals 1 damage to the enemy player, specifically, at the start of your turn. And this is key because dealing damage to the enemy is what triggers Assault, and Assault is the Marcolian exclusive keyword. It's going to interact with a lot of your cards, and it is just very, very useful to automatically turn on Assault every single turn. It also, you're going to look to play this card pretty early, which means if your opponent chooses to ignore it, they're going to take that 1 damage every single turn, which means they're taking 5, 6, maybe even more damage from a 1 energy unit that can't even attack. That is really, really good value. If you're playing the Armored Division HQ Paragon or the Vehicles deck, then one of the cards that was banned during Alpha because it was so strong, but is definitely going to come back, I expect probably at 2 energy cost when it does, but we shall see, is the Crimson Fleet Machinist. And this is a 1/2 unit that has a very important muster ability. Draw a random vehicle from your deck. When another vehicle you control enters the field, give that vehicle +0/+1. Next is the Combat Veteran. The Combat Veteran is a 2 energy 1/3 unit, and importantly, it has the ability that after this unit deals combat damage, it gains +1/+1. The Combat Veteran becomes a priority for your opponent to deal with every time that it gets played, and that's because the self-buffing nature is going to trigger pretty much every single turn. You're either going to attack the enemy player directly and get a free +1/+1, or you're going to attack a smaller enemy unit, take it out, and receive the buff. And as long as you're attacking smaller units, it's going to heal through the buff as well. If you don't take care of it right away, then within 3 or 4 turns you've got a 4/5 unit on your hands to deal with, and it is still self-buffing every turn. Once it gets that big, it's really going to start steamrolling just about everything. The Unstable Drone actually just got hit with a little bit of a nerf. Previously, it was a 3 energy 2/3 defender, and now it is a 5 energy 3/4 defender, which is still quite nice, but a little bit slower in relation to the buff that it received. That said, it is still a wicked card, and the reason is that the combination of its aftermath effect, which is that it deals damage equal to the unit's attack to a target enemy unit, and aftermath means that triggers on its death. Defender means that you have a lot of extra control over when it dies, so you can use this unit to attack and take out some units. You can then block with it, stop something, cause it to die, and take out another unit when it does die. That is a tremendous amount of damage for just 5 energy, and it's quite a pain in the butt for your opponents to deal with. Marcolian also doesn't have a lot of options in the way of defender, so you're going to find the unstable drone in both vehicle and non-vehicle decks alike. Last but certainly not least is the legendary vehicle, the Lancer Tank. The Lancer Tank is a 5 energy 5/5 unit, which is quite nice all by itself, but it also has the assault ability of dealing 4 damage to the enemy, and it has the active ability of on attack deal 4 damage to a target enemy unit. So the Lancer Tank becomes an immediate threat as soon as it hits the board, and your opponent is going to try to get rid of it right away, because if they do not, as soon as it's allowed to start attacking on the next turn, it really wrecks house. The assault ability assures that it gets at least 4 damage off when you summon it to the field, but if your opponent isn't able to get rid of it, then it is game over. So let's review the updated Marcolian key cards list. The effects that you're looking for are Crack Shot and Artillery Volley. The units you want are Crimson Fleet Machinist, Heavy Weapons Team, Combat Veteran, Unstable Drone, and the Lancer Tank. Maxing out your deck with these 7 cards will get you to 17 out of 40. For a Catherine deck, remember you want to have lots of inexpensive units, so load up there. And obviously for the Armor Division HQ, you're looking for lots and lots of vehicles. I hope you found this educational and entertaining, and if you did, consider hitting the subscribe button below.